Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 1985 Cadillac Eldorado. Up front is a 4.1 liter V8, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this Eldorado for two reasons. First of all, I grew up, my grandparents actually had a 1987 Eldorado, so a later generation, but I've never driven an Eldorado before. The second reason is that this car is incredibly clean, and I cannot get over it. I would love to eat off of the hood if I could, but I can't, so I won't. But if you would like to share your clean or dirty vehicle with me, you can head on over to my website, zackprato.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form, takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 4.1 liter V8 known as the HT4100, meaning high technology 4.1 liter. Well, as much technology as they packed into here, it has electronic fuel injection and an ECU, which was kind of a big deal for 85. It only makes about 135 horsepower, which seems okay, but then when you compare that the same year Mazda RX-7 with its optional 13B made the same exact horsepower out of a 1.3 liter, this engine starts to look a little lazy. And that's kind of what Cadillacs are meant to be, but 135 horsepower is, well, down near the bottom of the barrel. However, this engine was slightly problematic because the heads were cast iron and the block was aluminum. Sometimes they would heat up in different ways and cause some gaskets to blow or cracks to form and things like that. So a lot of modern mechanics don't really touch the 4100 too much. Like I said, paired to it is an automatic transmission. You couldn't get these in manual. They're luxury cars. They're not supposed to be. Last but not least about the drivetrain, it is front-wheel drive. And I always look at these giant boat Cadillacs from the 80s and assume that they're rear-wheel drive. But that assumption is false. It's a really long front-wheel drive vehicle. So how does it feel to actually drive the Eldorado? Well, it's big and floaty. The steering is really light. Visibility is fantastic. Just don't try to go anywhere fast because, well, you're not going to get there fast. It is a lopey and lazy automobile. But with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of analog gauges. Off to the left, I have my fuel. In the center, I get my speedometer, of course, highlighting 55 miles an hour. And off to the right, I have my coolant temperature light. And I do have some information centers down below. And I have my cruise control on and off, my mirror switch down below, things like that. On the steering wheel, I don't actually get anything besides the horn. Of course, this is pre-airbag, and it is very, very thin, sort of holding on that style from the 1970s. Off to the left, I do have a climate control vent, my wiper settings, and my headlight settings. Moving onto the door, we do have power mirrors for the driver window, power windows, power seat adjustments, and my lock and unlock. Now, this particular door panel has this weird added piece of wood that is not factory, but looking over at the passenger side panel is a lot cleaner and nicer, so that's what it would have looked like. Moving into the center, I do have a little information center for my fuel range used, instant fuel economy, and fuel data, as well as reset. And then I have my climate controls. Very small, very concise here in the Eldorado. Warmer, cooler, high or low, that's pretty much it. Then we do have an electronic tuning radio, which is pretty fun to see. Little fun 80s verbiage, I guess. Electronic tuning probably got some people real excited, but not me today. Then, of course, I do have an ashtray, and I don't have any factory cup holders. So, unfortunately, the 85 Eldorado fails the big friggin' bottle test. Then we do have these big cushy seats. They are finished in this nice cream color, and I love it. They're so unapologetically 80s and so unapologetically just flashy and luxury for the 80s. I feel like a Miami Vice villain would drive this car and sit on his plush vanilla seats, which I love. You sink into them. They're super comfortable. They're from a Cadillac, and that's all you need to know. However, speaking of seats, although this is a coupe, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the coupe Eldorado, and although it only has two doors, getting in and out isn't the most graceful, prettiest thing I've ever done this week, but it's very, very comfortable back here. I do, of course, have ashtrays and cigarette lighters on either side because it's the 80s and you need that. I also have these nice reading lights over my shoulder. Sitting up normally, my knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. My head is not hitting the ceiling. I might as well be in a sedan. That's what I love about this era of GM vehicles. The G-bodies do it amazing as well, is that even though they're coupes, they are comfortable around in the back. And that is really, really nice. Plus the vanilla interior carries on back here, cream interior. It's just, it's quite the look and quite the experience. I'm just gonna soak it in a little bit. Let's go hop around to the back, do a quick cargo space review. My apologies for the wind in advance, but something I wanted to show off first is that actually, if you pull this down, this is where your gas cap is, behind the license plate. Kind of funny. Anyway, getting the keys out of my pocket. Square for ignition, circle for cargo. Move this over to the side. All of these break so they don't do it on their own anymore. There we go, lift it up, and this is the trunk of the Eldorado. I love up here, they actually have an image of the Eldorado. Such a cool little piece. And of course we have the spare tire. Tons of space, it's a Cadillac. You can live back here if need be, and I'm sure people have. But overall, gotta love the trunk space of an Eldorado. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and this is finished in a wonderful, almost Cinderella blue, which I feel like I rarely see Cadillacs in, so it's a nice change in pace for sure. But this is a very interesting visual vehicle, not only because of the vinyl roof and how long it is and things like that, but this is the first Cadillac Eldorado to actually be smaller than its predecessors. In the late 70s, when this vehicle was conceptualized, there was a big downsizing going on with American vehicles. Of course, with the oil crisis, the big threes were all trying to make their cars smaller while still retaining that they're big cars. And so they actually downsized the Eldorado quite a fair bit for the 1980s, and that's what you see here today. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 1985 Cadillac Eldorado? Well, first of all, I've loved my experience. This has been such a joy to drive around. It's smooth, it's quiet, and it's comfortable. Is that engine underpowered? Yes, of course, but who cares? My biggest takeaway is that this is a very interesting transitional era for not only Cadillac, but American vehicles. Like I mentioned with the size, this was a downsized Eldorado, and they continued on that path really technically until today. And yet I also get a lot of 70s features in here. The really thin steering wheel reminds me of 70s cars. The wood paneling, sort of past its prime in the 80s. That was definitely more of a 70s thing. But it has electronic equipment in here, like the climate controls, an information center. It has the high tech or high technology 4.1. It's very 80s. And so this is just an interesting period in Cadillac's history. And it's exciting to see that. It's exciting to drive something that is sort of on that cusp of change. And so as we get to the end of the video, I'm just gonna let you look at this thing. Just soak up the beauty that is the Eldorado. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Max for letting me take out his 85 Eldorado. I'm filming a couple of his vehicles today. So excited to check out some of his other collection. Max has been absolutely awesome to work with. Huge thank you to him and his father as well for organizing this review. And I hope you enjoyed. But don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.